Hello. Today we are going to discuss about holacracy. What is holacracy? Why do we need an alternative model for traditional pyramid structure like management? And at the same time, what is this conventional model which is no more a valid option for futuristic organizations? We'll also look at what is the background of holacracy, a brief intro, and where it was adopted, and pros and cons, and why actually organizations need holacracy model in today's world, and what are the advantages of holacracy, and what are the alternative models of holacracy, and any pros and cons. Primarily, what are the challenges we have with holacracy type of management, and what would be the future of holacracy. Just want to clarify the opinions in this video are primarily based on my reading and couple of websites and TED Talks which I have gone through, and my opinions are not related to my organizational uh, uh, opinions or my org structure related comments. So these are purely my personal comments or my personal work. Coming back, what is holacracy? Why do we need holacracy? Holacracy is primarily an alternative model for a pyramid structure. If you understand, okay, let me put it this way: everyone has a boss, and everyone has to go to boss for some kind of an approval or a permission or a discussion where you are fully convinced that there is something wrong in the organization which needs to be fixed, which is in line with organizational objectives. Let me give an example. We might have an e-commerce website, okay, and you might be part of a software development team, and you found an issue which requires immediate attention, and you need that to be fixed. Now, in general, what happens? It goes through multiple channels of discussion with the respective business team and managerial team, and you come up with a plan, and you have to get an approval to deploy. And it can go either way, and based on the priority of what you have found, it might take some time for actual fix to happen. And in the whole process, you as an employee willing to help the organization achieve its core goal were stuck with bureaucratic process and delayed decision making, which is caused by pyramid structure. So pyramid structure is a traditional or conventional model of management where it's all top down, where you have a manager as an employee, and manager has a manager's manager, and they have middle management, and in turn they all roll up to a pyramid structure to a CEO, where CEO has an unlimited power within an organization. So what happens in general, as I mentioned in my example, most of the times the decision making has been very centralized in the traditional model. So you got to depend on your manager or a certain group of individuals, and the priorities of different groups and different departments might vary, and it actually causes the actual fix to be delayed. So the whole point of holacracy model is to decentralize the decision making, at the same time eliminating the bureaucratic delays and the challenges which causes the tension within an organization or between employees or peers. Now, what is holacracy model? How it differs from the conventional model? Holacracy model is primarily, as I understand, and based on the author of the book, Holacracy Objectives. Uh, the model itself is actually inspired by evolutionary model of human biology, or probably uh, evolutionary models. I can generalize it by saying evolutionary models. Let me give an example. You don't you We are familiar with atomic physics, or biological cells. So basically, you have cells in your body, and they do their job, and they're all working, and they don't have a boss. How can I put it that way? So your body cells doesn't report to anyone and doesn't wait for any action to happen, and they do their activities based on certain set of rules, and they actually autonomously operate within the boundaries of the work need to be done. This is somewhat similar to what holacracy model in our corporations might depict. Yeah. So if we translate this into a real world scenario, we actually have different departments reporting to different managers, and they in turn reporting to different directors or VP or vice presidents, and in turn reporting to a CEO. So what happens is like the decision making, accountability, and the tensions and the political or politics, I would say the office politics, which are a cause of tension, actually create a negative energy within an organization, in turn actually delaying the actual work needs to be done, which is in line with organizational objective. So holacracy is a circular model compared to uh, pyramid pyramid structure of a traditional model. So what happens in holacracy is like you identify a fix. Let me go back to an example of the software company or the issue which I said. So you find a defect and you have the authority to fix the defect. You don't need to have a boss. You don't need to talk to anyone. You just need to ensure that you have documented the issue and action you have taken so that you can take help of the respective team's learnings, and also at the same time let other teams know that their boundaries of work is getting impacted. So it's pretty much the social structure we normally have in our world, where you have a boundary, but within boundary you have autonomy in terms of decision making and actual work itself. What happens is like when you have such kind of autonomy, you can actually make decisions. That's the most important point of holacracy model. You need not wait. You need not wait for an approval. You need not wait for uh, decisions. You need not have recurring meetings, which pretty much deviate most of the times from the core objectives. And in the whole process, you end up as a demotivated employee, in turn causing the tension and sharing this with your co-employees, which in turn perpetuates the negative energy, which in turn causes the politics we call the politics of corporate uh, structure. So this gives more autonomy and more accountability at a employee level. But this also has a structure which can be put in place. So instead of having a pyramid structure, you kind of have a circular, or I would say cylindrical structure, where you have respective teams, individuals, not having a bureaucratic layer or a business boss who actually has power to override your decisions, or you are waiting forever for some kind of changes which can actually bring business or provide efficient customer service. So this has been started in 2007, and it came into limelight. The holacracy model came into limelight when Zappos has announced that it's going to roll out for all of its 1,500 employees. That's a major step, I would say, which has actually got a lot of attention from a lot of corporate organization in US. Yep. So we'll see what has happened to Zappos model, but that's a courageous step which Zappos took, and it has to face a certain kind of attrition. I have read that around 6% of employees were not willing to change to the holacracy based model, and they in turn left. Um, there are definitely based on the Zappos case study and also other uh, startups or other organizations who have adopted Holacracy have definitely seen a fair amount of results in terms of the customer service or the product development. Having said that, there are definitely a lot of advantages with holacracy based model, where there is no overlapping of responsibilities, and as an employee you kind of have purpose, which is the most important factor for a successful organization. And most of the times it gets stuck at a managerial level or an executive C-suite level. So, as a normal employee, you are clear with what is the purpose, and you kind of have some autonomy over decision making, which actually empowers you, and it actually makes you part of the company, and it actually brings the entrepreneur model of organized structure, which is very important because you are free to do as long as you are not violating the boundaries. You have authority to make decisions, and you have authority, and you can collaborate well with your learnings with other teams. Now, going back to Zappos model, there were like both pros and cons of this holacracy model. Uh, yeah, Zappos was primarily a startup selling shoes, and there is a reason because it is not a comparatively large organization at that point of time, since it was around 1,500 employees, sorry, who could take these courses and jump onto Holacracy bandwagon. But at the end of the year, Holacracy model was abandoned, or I would say discarded by Zappos, primarily quoting vagueness in terms of job description and recruitment challenges, and people not adhering to the boundaries. So these are the key disadvantages, I would say, with the Holacracy based model. If you want to recruit a person, what would you define your job description be? Because we know that this is a dynamic environment, and we also know that organization need to adapt to the change as quickly as possible. Else, it's a question of survival for most of the organizations. But at the same time, identifying resources, people primarily, to get into an organization and equip them with right skills and rules of holacracy constitution is actually a challenge. In my opinion, holacracy is still in infancy, and it would take some time for this model to mature. As more and more startups adopt this model and we have more number of learnings, then it would roll up to mid and large organizations. Uh, Holacracy has been compared to alternative models, primarily Jim Collins authored Good to Great, where there were 7 steps for an organization, a large organization, to take in terms of it doesn't violate the pyramidal structure, but it actually gives a direction in terms of identifying the leaders, and the action steps need to be taken. It may not be as contrarian as holacracy model is concerned, but there are both pros and cons with respect to good to great model. Uh, with respect to a standard alternative, I would say holacracy definitely has become an efficient alternative if uh, if it's for a startup. Yes, yes, because you have a lot more moving parts in a startup. You don't know who wants what. You don't want, as an entrepreneur and startup founder, you don't want people to wait for your instructions to make things happen. And you as a founder, you would love to see people making decisions and feeling as part of an organization and taking the accountability and ownership and making decisions that actually gives a purpose and objective for whole of the startup mission. Having said that, for large organizations, it is quite challenging to adopt to such a model, while mini holacracy, I would say, can be really considered for large organizations in pockets, or probably some departments where they have very little collaboration or more authority or more moving parts, something like IT department of an organization, or marketing, or advertising, or um, other departments. However, traditional institutions like banking, manufacturing, these type of organizations would definitely need to have a matured model of holacracy, because they have certain defined rules and certain hierarchical structure which are top down, but which seems to be working for them. But holacracy model has to be matured to take advantage for these sectors in future. Holacracy is definitely, as a manager, I would definitely consider holacracy learnings. In the conventional world, it's definitely something which I would love to see my team make decisions without waiting for my approval. The more and more they become autonomous, it empowers them as well as us as managers, and also our organization and organization leadership, where they can focus more on the key challenges rather than being a problem solvers which are just bubbling up from bottom up. So I am very optimistic about holacracy model, but I think we need to have more and more organization adapt to holacracy to have a mature holacracy model. Thank you.